I'd like to start off, before I do this, with a story. And I like to tell you a number of stories because it keeps you awake, basically, and keeps it more interesting. So it's about Socrates, and you know it's about gossip. And there's always a lot of gossip about Islamic finance, you know, whether it's right, whether it can be issued, what does it really mean. So I thought this might be an appropriate story, which is somebody comes to Socrates and said, I've got a really good gossip for you. So Socrates says, well, you have to satisfy my 3-filter test. So he said, fine. So he said, the first filter is something you're going to tell me truthful? He said, well, I don't know if it's truthful. I just heard it, so I thought you might be interested in hearing it. And Socrates says, well, you don't know if it's truthful, but you still want to tell me the story. There's gossip. He said, yes, I do. So, okay, you might satisfy the other 2 filters. So the second filter is what you're going to tell me, it's not truthful, but is it good? So, well, I don't know if it's really good or not. So he said, okay, maybe you'll satisfy the third filter. He said, so you don't know if it's truthful, it's not good, so is it useful to me? So, well, I don't know if it's useful to you, but I just want to tell you this bit of gossip. So it's a 3-filter test, which is, you know, is it truthful? How well do we actually know of the information out there? And is it really good? Some people, you know, mix up Islamic finance with a lot of other confusion about the different Sharia concepts, etc. And of course, finally, is it useful? So it must be useful to us as well. So I hope that that metaphor is useful to you. Okay, so sukuk. They're tradable trust certificates backed by assets, financial certificates, assets represented by a certificate. Assets. Some people feel that there must be an underlying asset. Now we're tending to move away from saying, well, there need not be an underlying asset, but there must be reference to an underlying asset. Whether it's asset-backed, asset-based, different people have different views. Okay, this is the features of a sukuk. It's a certificate of investment. Investors are not creditors. They own an undivided share. Now, if you're lawyers or financiers, they'll say, well, what happens if there's a problem, etc. And, you know, different jurisdictions have different rules. Then issuance is asset securitization, and you'll see within our ordinance, that's what, in a way, it does. You've got different forms of contract, and I've used the forms of contract which are used in our ordinance here. Of course, there are more. It can be fixed or floating. If it's floating, you use a lease type structure because it gives you greater flexibility. Trading can be underlying concept like sale, outright sale of the ownership. Okay, and it can be medium term or long term. You can have issuers and agents, SPVs or partners. Rating exercise will be as determined in the jurisdiction. Of course, risks, there's originator risks with the different structures that you use, whether or not, for instance, in a lease structure, you'd be able to make the lease payments on time in the amount that you had agreed, or can vary. Okay. Of course, there are market risks as well. Those of you financiers will well understand this, but I think it's important now to try and change your thinking to more of how an Islamic scholar would think. Okay, and it does take a bit of a change in your thinking. Redemption also, again, you can use your financial knowledge that you have, but again, think of slightly different aspects. And I'll be coming to some of Sharia things just to give you a taste of how a scholar thinks. Okay, so hopefully in getting you to conscious competence, I want to not only show you the change in the law, but I want to give you a taste of how a scholar thinks, so that when you go to him and say, is this approved or is this not approved, you get an idea of why he will say yes or no. Okay, so I hope I'm successful with that. And of course, Sharia compliance is what I was talking about, what scholars have to look at.